Welcome to More Than Miles, the podcast where we use storytelling and expert interviews to widen the lens on what it means to be a happy and healthy endurance athlete. We believe that athletes are so much more than their body, sport, and training miles. I'm Dr. Kate Mihevik-Edwards.
And I'm Dr. Kacy Sinders. We are endurance athletes, physical therapists, and huge coffee addicts. We spend most of our time treating, educating, and working with endurance athletes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Now let's get to the show.
Our guest today is Yoder Begley. Amy is the coach for the Atlanta Track Club Elite Team and has been a staple of the Atlanta running community for several years. Amy competed in the 2008 Beijing Olympics in the 10,000 meter event. Amy was also a member of the Oregon Project from 2007 to 2011. She's one of the incredible women who has recently spoken out about her experience while she trained with Alberto Salazar.
You really have to listen to this episode because in this episode, we get to talk with Amy about her running career, her experience as a female athlete. She spoke very candidly about the years she spent in the Oregon Project. She talked to us about what it's like to build a professional running team, and then also how her career has really shaped her coaching philosophy. So this is another one of those episodes that Kacy and I are both very excited about and think that it is a must listen. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hello.
And of course, Kacy.
Hello. Yes, I'm here as well.
Well, we're really excited because for the last, I don't know how many months now, we've been working a lot more closely with Amy, which has been a lot of fun for us at our clinic, working with her because she's the coach of the Atlanta Track Club. I almost said ATC, right? Like we said not to. We have really gotten to know you pretty well, and I'm so excited to share you with the world.
Well, thanks. It's been a fun journey, to say the least.
Yeah, so we've been so lucky to have Amy in the Atlanta community here for several years now. I felt like it hadn't been that long, but it's been a long time now. You've been a staple here, and it's been really awesome.
It's gone a lot faster than I thought it would.
What year did you start?
I showed up December of 2014. Yeah.
Wow, it really has been a long time. Mm-hmm. That is not what I was thinking. You're right. It goes by fast.
Yeah, it's 7 years now.
Wow. The other day, what were we talking about right before the strength clinic, Kacy, where I said I was going to mention it on the podcast with Amy? What did you say about my age?
Oh no. Kate was mentioning certain runners. I'm not going to name names that she knew because she was mentioning that she doesn't know any of the current professional runners, which I talk about because I follow professional running and I have for a while. And I said that those runners were from a different era.
And yeah, it's fine. I totally get it.
So Amy,
I'm so sorry.
You and I are the same age, essentially. And so I said, oh, so you're saying that Amy and I are old?
I mean, it happens.
We're currently from a different era.
Well, my athletes say, oh, they're old. And I go, old like me old or older than me old? That's what I have to start asking them now. Because 1990 for them was...
That's funny.
Okay, era was a little bit of an aggressive term. I acknowledge that. That's not what I meant.
I couldn't let it slide. I couldn't let it slide. I'm sorry.
That's awesome. No,
I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing that into the light here.
I just had to, a little throwing you under the bus. So sorry.
That's funny.
So the first thing that we really wanted to talk about, Amy, was how did your running journey begin?
I always tell people that I was one of those weird little kids that thought running looked like fun. And after doing, softball and swimming and basketball, they really didn't have soccer in the Midwest yet. And so I saw this woman running around the park every time we'd walk the dogs. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And my parents were like, okay. And I was like 8 and they're like, oh, when you're 10, I think they thought I'd forget. But, we saw her running every single time we walked the dogs there. And so when I was 10, I said, hey, I'm 10. And so they put me in this Mother's Day 5 mile. And I still think they put me in a 5 mile race because A, they didn't know how far it was, or B, they thought I would never run again. I'm not sure which. But I got to run in the park that we saw the woman running. And that was kind of it. I loved it and got this big red ribbon that I always hang in my office wherever I go. And it was kind of the reminder of that 10-year-old that thought running looked amazing. So it was kind of always my reminder when things got a little nuts, like, hey, you were 10 and you thought it looked awesome. And then middle school, they did not have a girls team. So I got to run on the boys team, which I thought was amazing. Though when you run on a boys team in middle school and you beat most of them, it leads to bullying and all that fun stuff. So I would never go back to middle school ever again in my entire life. But then when I got to high school and got to run on, girls team, I kind of thought it was boring. But
And then why did you think it was boring?
I don't know. I guess just the being competitive against the boys for so long was just really fun. And obviously they get to a point where they could beat you. But our team was really tiny too. And we weren't that serious. So, but the guys, it was more fun to be competitive with them, I guess.
I can relate to that. I mean, I remember just doing my speed work after college, and I was one of two girls, and there were probably 10 or 15 guys on the track, and it was just the two of us. And it was great. And I loved beating them. I mean, that was probably the highlight of the track workout.
Oh, yeah.
So did you ever meet the woman who inspired you to run?
Yeah, her husband was actually a teacher at the high school, and she was a teacher at one of the elementary schools down the road. So yeah, so I got to meet her and get to know her and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Julie Manger.
I love that. And I feel like I don't know if I'm that exactly that influential when I run, but sometimes I'll like run by a family or something. They'll be like, she's running fast or something like that. And it brings me so much joy. It makes me really happy.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know. Kids pay attention sometimes. So.
Oh, they pay attention so much more than you realize.
The lessons they take away, you're like, oh, you got that? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what we were talking about at dinner last night, but my son interrupted me and he started going into this big analogy. He didn't really understand or didn't think he understood what we were talking about. And then all of a sudden he said, Mom, wait, is this what you mean? And then he broke it down to this analogy that was like this engineering analogy. And I couldn't believe it. And I said, actually, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah, they're amazing.
Wow. Pretty cool.
So, I mean, you ran at Arkansas, correct?
I did. My freshman year, I think I got last at state, and my dad made some comment about if I just gave it a little bit more, I'd, be better. And so, I ran all summer, and then I won state the rest of the time where I was second. And then I got to go to Foot Locker 3 times. And then I got to go to Arkansas, which was, it's still funny I went there because I think I asked all the other coaches more questions than him, but I love the small size of it. I love the fact that there was a separate women's team. We had a separate training room. We had a separate lifting, a separate academic center. And so I love the fact that we didn't have to share anything with the football team or a basketball team. And, everything was obviously it was separate but equal, right? I mean, our stuff was smaller or whatever, but I still like the fact that the women, you'd have your own trainers and things like that. And I like that. And that's pretty much why I chose to go there. Things are a little bit more integrated now, but they still have a lot of separation, which I think is good. I mean, when they combine track programs, obviously there's good and bad in that, but we all know that women's coaching numbers go down when that happens and different things like that. So but there's a few schools left that still have them separate.
There are a few schools that are just women's schools too around the country. And you can definitely tell. I can't remember what I was reading about, but even Agnes Scott is a women's only college in Decatur. Mm-hmm. And some of the statistics about math and science and how women excel in those programs when they're by themselves is really astonishing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, if you're in a training room, and even if you have your own, trainers for your program, you still can't get on the Alter G at certain times. You still can't be in the, training room at certain times. And, you bringing up something to your trainer in front of other guys are not going to happen, So I think women, even though I think women are getting definitely a lot more confident to stand up and say things from themselves, there's still a lot of times they're not going to in front of other people. And, you put them in a training room full of guys and I think they're not going to say and get what they need to get and things like that. So
I think you're right. I mean, this is a lot of what we talk about now in physical therapy and training and running, but I mean, we even train different. We are not like what Stacy Sims says, we're not small men. Women are not small men. And I think there's a lot to that in terms of how we train and how we process things.
Yeah. And so what was this is a little bit of a pivot off of the women empowerment talk. So I apologize with that.
It must be because of our era.
I think it's our era. I mean,
it's your era. Yeah.
I think
you have as many opportunities as my generation does.
we paved the way.
We paved the way for you, you little snot. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true.
Ouch.
It's really 100% true. It's 100% true. I'm not going to argue with that at all.
I'm just teasing. I love you.
I'm not so sure after some of these comments today, but we'll see.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I'm feeling some shade over here. No, I'm just kidding. So I was wondering what the culture was like at Arkansas. So what was the vibe of the team? How did your coach frame running and training and success and failure for you guys, or for you women? I'm sorry.
It was interesting because when I came in, the team, they had like 4 or 5 amazing women. Like Dina Drawson was there. So Dina Castro, like she had just graduated. They had like 4 or 5 amazing women. And so literally they graduated and here I come. And so the team went from, pretty big to pretty small. And so my year, I think I was the only one that made it to nationals in cross country. And, from that point on, it was, hey, let's recruit really hard. So if we'd go to nationals or other places, if I saw anybody that wasn't very happy, I'm like, hey, if you're not happy, you want to come join us? That was my recruiting. I'm recruiting at all the meets. I'm like, oh, every time I'd see someone crying or something, hey, come join us. We have a lot of fun. And that's I was like, all right. I mean, I think everybody's different. I mean, Lori Knowles, who's on our team now on the Land Track Club, she was my teammate and she transferred from William and Mary to Arkansas. So her and I have kind of funny coming back together after that. It was, because we had separate teams, the men's team won like 40 national champions. So they were always winning. We were 3rd, 4th, sometimes, I don't know if we were 2nd, but we were always kind of the underdog for a while compared to the men. So we didn't get quite as much attention as the men did. And then, now the women are better than the men there. So it's kind of funny, how the eras go. But
this is going to be a theme.
And I actually have something later if we'd even add to that theme. But it was good. I enjoyed it. I think everybody has different experiences, I think, depending on how much success they thought they had or if they thought they did what they wanted. Depends on people and their careers, I think, sometimes how they feel about theirs. But I enjoyed my time there. Andrew transferred down after a year, so he was with me the 4 of my years there. So,
did you guys date before college then? I didn't realize that.
We did. So actually, Andrew and I were born in the same town. And then when I was 7, I moved down the road. And so we competed against each other in middle school. I did not beat him. He loves to tell everyone that I did not beat him in middle school. And then he had a crush on me until my junior year. And then he gave up. And of course, that's when I asked him out. He's a year older. So he went to Wisconsin for a year. He actually coached me my senior year because our coach, bless his heart, he was a football coach and doing the best that he could to coach women's cross country and track. So Andrew coached me my senior year. And then I went to Arkansas. He transferred down early, but he couldn't join until the semester. So we started dating 95.
Wow. That's a really fun story.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't realize it.
I know.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
What's your favorite running memory?
One, I have a terrible memory. I can tell you that. But literally after 5 years, it's kind of, Andrew made me these memory books so that I can at least somewhat remember some things. But honestly, if you ask, like right now, my favorite running memory was in 2016 doing the New York Marathon. That was a incredibly magical weekend. And I did it in 6 hours with Tina Tate. I don't know if I can ever go back and do New York because that was such an amazing weekend and a great experience that it'll never go that well. So I don't want anything to like cloud that memory of New York. It was pretty amazing.
That's fun. I love it when you have a race like that. We were talking a little bit about your culture and the culture at Arkansas. What about the culture when you were in the Oregon Distance Project? What was the difference and kind of the comparison? We're just going to jump right in.
So I'd run for, Andrew coached me and I ran for Asics Adidas. And then I was actually in Atlanta. I was running at the trails at the river. I broke my leg. Adidas dropped me. Now we're with Adidas, which is funny. So
Yeah, that is
right in Atlanta for the second time. Okay. And so I called Frank, Gags, Coach Gags, and I said, hey, I'm looking to make a change. Andrew and I decided that it's time to really make a change. And, he can only take me so far, and it's hard for him to be that coach that he needs to be and, not be the husband or whatever. So Coach Gags was like, hey, I don't have anybody here for you to train with for the 5K, but I think Kara needs a training partner up with Alberto. So why don't you call her? So I called Kara. Kara talked to Alberto. Alberto called me, brought me in for a recruiting visit, and I moved up there. Now, what I didn't think through was the fact that I would only be like the third woman he'd ever coached, because he coached Kara and Caitlin Chalk and then myself. Didn't think that one through. And so I think it was just a little bit different. He had, it started in 2000 with a group of male marathoners. They had the Altitude House, and, then they brought in Caitlin Chalk and Kara and then myself. And everything revolved around, at the time, it was Adam Goucher. And then he was still kind of coaching Galen at U of O. So he would kind of go back and forth before Galen actually joined us. So it really, whatever mood Adam was in, that's how practice was. And then when Galen joined us, it was whatever mood Galen was in, that's how it was. They didn't really spell it out to me that well, but I was really brought in to be Kara's training partner, not really brought in to be my own person, until I started running better. And then I was trained as my own person, I guess would be the best way to say it. But I went there because of the opportunities offered to me. I didn't have to work. Well, actually, I wasn't allowed to work a part-time job, which I'd always done. I had time for naps, and everything was free, right? We had a massage therapist, and we had a chiropractor appointment once a week. We had PT all the time. So, all of the things that I was paying for couldn't do. Now it was just right there, kind of laid out for me. So I went there for a lot of the, training partners and all the things that would keep me healthy. It was interesting.
First, I need to know what it was like to be Kara Goucher's training partner. She's like on my list of people that I would love to meet one day. So Kara, if you're listening, I'd love to meet you. So just tell me what that was like. I just need to know.
Kara and I had raced against each other since we were 13, 14. So, she's from Minnesota. So when you run Foot Locker, right, you run in your region. So, and we'd run against each other, and since we were a lot younger, and plus, we went through school together and everything. So we'd known each other for a long time. And back then they also took you to junior camp. So if you were one of the, in high school, if you were one of the best athletes, they took you to Colorado Springs or, San Diego, and put you through this kind of junior program, which they made so many mistakes in those camps with high school age women. I just think back and I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe they did that. Openly saying everybody's results in front of everybody else, probably not the best idea. Things like that. So I'd known Kara for a long time, and that's kind of why we ended up training together. And we were great until our sports psychologist, who really wasn't a sports psychologist, pitted us against each other because they thought that was the best idea. So they really drove a wedge between us. He would tell each of us that the other person said certain things that we never said, because we went back and kind of referenced notes, and it was interesting the things that he would say that I said and that he would tell me that she said, and telling me that she didn't, he literally said, Kara doesn't want you as a friend. You're not to call her. You're not to do anything with her. She really doesn't like you. You need to show up to practice and be cordial, and she doesn't want to hear anything you have to say. And I was like, so I'm supposed to go on a 14 to 20 mile run with her and not say a word, but listen to everything she has to say? That's fair. Sure. Great. So literally that's how it was for probably over a year. And then she had Colt. So then I was by myself. It was just Galen and I for the entire time that she was, postpartum. So we were kept apart prior to pregnancy and then post-pregnancy. And then we kind of started figuring a lot of things out towards the end. And, we kind of got back together, and we've been talking, and we went quite a few years, and we've started talking recently again, which is nice. It's still terrible what they did. I tell people that when you train with people, you have love-hate relationship with them, right? And I wish they wouldn't have done that to us. I think it would be a lot better now, but that's okay.
I mean, from everything we know, that's the exact opposite of what you need to do when you are building a team. I mean, if we really look at what we know now about sports and about health and about performance and about women, I mean, we really need camaraderie. And for them to have done that to you, and especially somebody that's supposed to be on your side as a healthcare provider, that's pretty shocking. Was this person, they weren't really a sports psychologist at all?
Well, he wasn't licensed in the state of Oregon. He was billed to us as a sports psychologist, but really he should have been billed more as a sports performance counselor. He should have been, or a sports performance, I don't know, something, but not a sports psychologist at all. So, because he wasn't licensed in the state of Oregon, and I don't even know if he still had his license. Actually, I don't even know. So.
Well, I mean, I think that's against all professional creeds across all of healthcare to do the things that you said he was doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God, Amy, I'm sorry. That's so astonishing and heartbreaking, especially when what we need is camaraderie, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to hear that you guys are talking now and repairing that relationship.
As a positive side note, I noticed we're going to talk about the current team in more detail later, but just seeing them interact with each other and following them all on Instagram, they look like they're having a blast together. And I've noticed this camaraderie with the new team, and I think it's going to create something really special. So it's great to see that that's the culture at the track club now.
Yeah, and we've worked really hard to get this group, and it's hard when you bring people in. You ask the team, we're like, hey, you really need to let us know if this person's going to gel with the team. You don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to, want to room with them, but you need to be able to work together and at least do some things together. And it's hard sometimes for them to be honest, and be like, I don't know. And that's a hard thing to do, to have to tell an athlete, maybe not. But, we've tried really hard, and I think we've finally got this one right. This team chemistry is pretty good. So
that speaks a lot to you, and you using your experience and all of the negative things that have happened and turning it around and really building something pretty incredible, which is what I think you're doing now.
It's been fun, to say the least. This group makes it fun to get out there and do it and watch them work together to succeed, which you don't always find.
Yeah. So how did your previous experiences in different teams help you shape yourself as a coach and what you wanted to get out of the group?
That's a good question. I guess with the Oregon Project, I felt unwanted, or I was always the odd man out, which sometimes people feel like that, but I was always kind of the odd man out. Or, every time he called, my stomach would drop because it's like, what is he going to tell me now? What did I do wrong? Who did I piss off? Who did I, whatever. It was always something. My laugh annoyed Galen. I was too happy. I was too sad. I was not cordial enough. It's always something. I don't ever want my athletes to get to that point where they can't talk to me about things. They feel like I'm not on their side. They feel like, that I don't believe in them. And, and if you do get to that point with an athlete, then I think you have to be honest, because it's not fair to them, because you're not putting everything into them, and they need to be honest with you too. It's gotta be an equal partnership with you and the athlete. And I think once it's not anymore, then I think both sides need to be honest. And can you repair that? If not, then then we need to find you a different situation where that is.
Were you ever able to have that conversation with your coaches?
Good question. I had Lance, and then Andrew, and then Alberto. Andrew was able to turn the coach on and off. I was not able to turn that on and off.
I don't know how you let him. I do not know how he coached you for so long.
He was great at turning it on and off. Me, no. Still mad about practice 5 hours later, whatever. He's like, you're still carrying that around. With Alberto, it was his way or no way. There was no debate. It became a do it my way or I won't coach you. If you don't do this, I won't coach you. If you don't, he dictated how I would race. He dictated and everything. It was, there was no questioning anything. And to be truthful, as a coach, it's taken me a while to find that balance, right, with athletes, not having them my way or the highway, but also not letting them change the plan and trajectory of what we think they need to do. It takes a while to learn and understand an athlete, right? And a lot of them come saying, I know my body, I know this and that, but they've never had to push themselves to certain levels. They are impatient and, making decisions for themselves. Sometimes either they do way too much or they do way too little. And it's hard sometimes to learn the athlete and find that middle ground of my way, the highway, or, hey, let's change this up to make it the best for you. And I think I'm at a much better place now than I would have been, 6-7 years ago, right? And when you first start a program too, you developing the culture and your style of training, you also don't want to get off track as much because you kind of need to develop your own system and figuring out if it works or doesn't work.
It's a huge learning curve. And, I'm not a coach, but I own a practice and I have a team I'm building. And then we work with you guys. And it's the same type of thing. Like you have to decide how much you're going to give and how much has to be taken so that you can have your athletes be successful. We've had several conversations about, okay, we know X athlete really needs this, but mentally and emotionally, they want this. And so where can we meet them in the middle to make sure that they're successful and they stay out of trouble in terms of injury, but they're also happy and they want to do what they're doing. So it's really complex. And until you're there, it's hard to understand.
Yeah. It's like, they want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, how far does that stray from what you really want them to do? Will it even make a difference in what you want to do? Okay, right? It's, still figuring that part out some days.
I think I'm definitely still figuring that part out.
Kate has this employee, her name is Kacy, and she just throws a wrench in all of the plans, just always causing trouble.
Oh, she's so difficult, Amy. I wish
difficult.
Oh, if only you knew her.
Yeah.
Something I've been kind of thinking about lately, because also putting together some stuff for you guys in general, athletes really know their body. So they know what it feels like to be in their body. And they're the only ones that understand that. And it's very important as a healthcare provider, as a coach, as everybody else to really understand that they are the only ones that experience that. But I also think that because of how driven athletes can be, they constantly are missing the warning signs that their body is giving them. And so you may know your body, but you may not know its warning signs. And I think that sometimes we have to figure out how to integrate that and overcome that.
I think some of the athletes they push through things they shouldn't because they don't know the difference. Some are not great at communicating. I learned that the hard way of my career, that the vocabulary I was using, they took it a different way than I would. And so we weren't on the same page with how things felt or how they were going. That's why I ask 500 questions of my athletes, because I know that I was not the best athlete in communicating those things. And I think there's some athletes where that pain becomes normal, right? Like they ran through it in college. It warms up, it's fine, but they don't realize, like with Achilles or something else, like you don't realize that probably shouldn't be normal, right? But you've done it for so long that it's your new normal, right? And you don't know you should know, but you don't know any different.
That's right. That's exactly right. Whatever you're used to is what is your normal.
Like one of our athletes last year, we didn't realize that her Achilles, she literally was running through pain every day, but she never told anybody because that was just her normal. It's always hurt. It's hurt through college. It's hurt now. Like, I don't stop for this. it's always. And we were like, wait, what? We were like, you're always at a 4 with your Achilles? Are you serious? Like, good to know. God, it's been a year of this. Right. When it gets to an 8, I let you know. No.
Oh, it's good you guys figured that out.
It's amazing how long they go without telling you. And you're just staring at them like, okay, good. Glad to know this 6 months later. Okay.
Oh, it's so true.
I love how you say you have to ask them 500 questions to get the information that you want. Because I work with this not only with the elite athletes, but even just my regular patients, like teaching them how to communicate how they feel to their coach, because that's crucial information for you to know what to do with training next. You know, should we push here? Should we not? And it's just really important information to have. And, you know, a lot of just the athlete mindset is like, tell me what to do and I'll do it at all costs. Right. And so figuring out how to get people to communicate that, like you've got to ask point blank questions. And even then you're not going to get the answer you want, but like you tried. If you ask point blank and they say no, I mean, that's not your fault, right?
And I think sometimes they're afraid to ask for something different. And so I have to constantly tell them like everyone's different. I mean, we have athletes that cross train every Tuesday, Thursday. We have athletes that, you know, cross train for the doubles. We have athletes that hate doubles, so they just do singles, right? Or we have athletes that have work, so they can't do doubles. Like everybody's different with what they need and how they fit it in and how they do it. But if you don't speak up and tell us that it's not working for me, then how are we supposed to know that, you know, you've skipped X number of things because you just can't do it? Well, you kind of need to tell me.
So one thing, before we move on to talking a little bit more about the season coming up and how excited we are about the athletes, I have one thing that I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about. And so that's the idea of the relationship between body weight and performance. With all the things coming out in the past few years, several athletes, I mean, Mary Kane not being the only one, but definitely the one to get the most attention at the start. It's a big topic right now. And I think it's something that has a lot to do with how we talk about it, the culture that we create, how we portray athletes in the media and so on and so forth. This is like 500 layers deep. But I wanted to hear your perspective about it. And, you know, you've obviously had a lot of experience in the very unideal end of this, to put it lightly. And so I wanted to hear a little bit more about your experience and how that has shaped how you approach things now.
Yeah, so it's as a coach, and everyone's different, right? For me, it's I want to make sure that we have certain fundamentals down. It's more about building the aerobic side, building their speed, make sure they're healthy from the ground up. And, you know, then we work on racing. And for me, like, and for Andrew, nutrition and weight are honestly one of the last building blocks that we touch, because even if your nutrition is spot on and your weight is spot on, if we haven't worked everything else, I really don't care that your weight is here and your body fat is whatever. If that is your main focus and nothing else is your recovery, your stretching, if you aren't worried about any of this and this is all you're only focused on nutrition, that's not going to work. You know, nutrition and weight is the last piece that we do, because, and honestly, like race weight and things like that, I mean, that takes a lot of work to dial it in. And if you're working hard enough and you're fueling enough, your body's going to get where it needs to get, as long as you're doing the right things. And so we don't step in and really make it a thing unless we see an athlete really make changes too far one way or the other. And that really signals a lot of issues if that happens. You know, if our providers say, you know, hey, I've noticed X, Y, and Z, we try to stay in our lane, right? And find a nutritionist for them. We try to, you know, guide them. And sometimes the athletes come to us and they've been doing everything right. And they're like, hey, I want to work with the nutritionist. Great. You know, that's perfect. But that's not one of the things I'm going to push them on. I'd rather them go, you know, see the physical therapist and get all of their imbalances corrected and work the injuries. And like I said, if they're doing everything right, it's going to happen. But reading some of the stories about coaches using DEXAs on a monthly basis, I mean, I'm all for finding their body composition. I'm all for finding their bone density. But I mean, DEXAs, as far as I know, like it's like a yearly or 18-month thing. It's not a monthly thing. That's amazing to me that people are doing that. I don't think there's enough research, honestly, for high school and college age women. And I also think that the puberty and development is so different as well. So I think that it's hard to say, hey, your body fat should be X during this, because you don't know where they are in their development and you don't know. I think coaches don't have enough information. It's sad to see. It's sad to watch. It's sad to watch some athletes in high school be phenoms, and you know that as soon as they get injured or if something else happens, they're going to go through puberty and it's going to be a whole nother story. Or they're going to eventually go through puberty in college and then it's going to be real rough. So that's hard to watch.
I mean, that's where the training plateau or the performance plateau hits, right? And so women are often beating men when they're in middle school. And then as soon as they hit puberty, everything changes. And that's where the differences start occurring in terms of their hormones and the changes in their musculoskeletal system, their cardiovascular system. And that's where we really need to be addressing women and how they're training, and are they training based on their hormones, et cetera. I think that's a huge piece that's left out in most training programs when you're looking at women, female athletes.
I read, the Roar book, and I gave it to some of the athletes, and, they're reading it. So they're starting to understand a little bit more about, how they feel certain ways and why they feel certain ways. And it's interesting once you start giving them a little bit of knowledge and stuff, and they start feeling better about things. It's huge. And when I give talks to high school athletes or even their coaches, I say, hey, there's going to be a time where you are going to develop, and that year to 18 months is not going to be fun for you. If the coach can be accepting and patient and understanding during that 12 to 18 months, you're going to be happier, they're going to be happier, and you're going to avoid some injuries and, avoid a lot of issues. But if you push them like you've been pushing them and you expect the results you've been expecting, it's not going to happen. I mean, I got lucky. I hit puberty in like middle school, right? So I didn't have to go through it in high school. I mean, I thought I was going to be a basketball player. I thought I'd keep growing, so it'd be great. No, didn't happen. So, I was low mileage at whatever. So I got lucky. And I think that's why I was pretty stable throughout, because other than the celiac stuff, but I think that's why I was pretty stable, because I got lucky and hit it early before high school. So.
Amy, how do you think we change that conversation for coaches and for female athletes that are going through this, performance plateau, and then using diet and restricting their food and that type of thing to try and reach their performance goals? But we really know that's not going to help them, but they don't know that. So how do we change that conversation?
I mean, the hard part is that you have these coaches you have high school coaches that are incredibly competitive, and, they want to win. And they're telling these high school athletes that, in order to get a scholarship, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's a chicken before the egg, right? Like, if the college coaches don't understand that the high school athlete, it might be changing during their junior year, and they quit looking at them or whatever, then that's when the female athletes get a little bit neurotic, because they want to get back to where they were their sophomore year. And it's just this whole spiral. And if high school and collegiate coaches could be a little bit more educated about just being patient with the athlete through that, it would be better. But again, it's looking at metrics, right? Like, everybody looks at, hey, your sophomore year, your junior year, and then and as we know, that's when girls are going through puberty. And it's just, I think the stress of it from both the high school and college levels just creates just a firestorm during the worst part of their development.
So I think the biggest thing that coaches need to learn how to do is not only be educated that this happens, because I'm sure there's plenty of high school coaches out there that don't really know about this performance plateau and kind of ignore the fact that puberty affects a woman's performance a lot more than a man's or a girl's versus a boy's, however you want to put it. But I think it's getting them to zoom out, right? Say, like, these are not your best running years. And this is what I tell all of my high school runners that I see in the clinic. And because I remember being there, and I was nowhere near an elite runner, or even top, not in the front pack at all. But I found it really frustrating to see the boys improve so much more than me and things like that. So frustrating. I hated it. And really trying to fight puberty and it just doesn't work. You can't fight physiology. So I always tell, my high school girls, like, these are not your best running years. Your best years are way in front of you, right? Like, I'm in my golden age right now.
Whoa, you sure are. Yep, about to hit 30, the golden age for women.
It is. I mean, 20 to 32, man, if they just knew. But yet they don't understand that if they don't lay down, their bones, if they don't develop properly, like, they're not going to hit their golden years of 28 to 32 is going to be nothing if they don't do it right now.
And that's the conversation, is really changing what those years in high school are for. Those years are for development, getting strong, building bone, understanding good mental and physical habits, so that when we have the time, 28 to 32, when women are really going to be at their best, they're prepared and they're not already injured and in trouble and mentally beat up.
I wish we would have done more, form and speed drills. I wish we would have done, a little bit more of that, because if you don't do that when you're younger, then, you can't really do that when, it's kind of like, it's much harder to learn those things, and you can't getting faster when you're older. You didn't do that when you were younger. So the problem is it's not just one fix to that. It's just, like you said, the layers of it to fix that it's hard. But I know that Molly Huddle and Sarah Slattery, they're putting out a book. It's coming out, I think, March. And they interviewed and went through like 25 women who had long careers with, middle school, high school, college, pro, and just showed their journey and showed how everyone's journey is different, so that female athletes don't feel like, so the high school athletes don't feel like they have to be on this track, right? Because if you watch the tracks of all the different women, some weren't great in high school. Some were, great in high school, not college, but then great, they were good in pro. So I hope that book gives, all the high school girls, it shows them there's different ways to get there.
Gosh, that'll be amazing. I can't wait until that book comes out.
Yeah, they forgot to record that one, so I got to do mine twice.
You did?
Yes.
That's funny. Well, maybe you'll have to introduce us to them so that we can have them on the podcast when the book comes out. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, it's gonna. I'm really excited for it.
Let's preview the Atlanta Track Club Elite season. So what do the athletes have coming up? What are we excited about? What can we expect from them this year?
So as you know, we kind of have the distance group, we have the mid distance group, and now we have a new sprint crew. I think everyone's opening up at Vanderbilt on the 22nd. But this weekend, we have our LD group, our marathoners, and they're going to Houston. So Bridget, Megan, and Joanna will go race Houston this weekend. And then from there, it just depends on how things go, whether we do some more road races, if, some want to decide on the marathon. Bridget's coming back from having MAV, and Joanna's coming off the marathon from November. And so we'll see kind of their tracks. We'll see how it goes this weekend. And then the mid-distance crew, they're really excited. It's interesting because we've never had this many new people at once. So I think we have like 7. So getting used to all of them and, how they raise, their, where they're at with fitness, and it's interesting. It's fun. It's definitely keeping us on our toes, and we're excited to get started at Vanderbilt. So we'll go Vanderbilt, and then we're going to do Dr. Sanders. We're going to do New Balance. We're going to do Melrose. We'll compete in Louisville, and then NCAA's indoors in Spokane. So the farthest place away to go.
I love Spokane. I went there for a running conference years ago. Actually, it was one of my first running conferences that I wasn't teaching at. I was learning. And yeah, Spokane's a pretty cool place, but it is really hard to get to.
Yeah. Supposedly the track is amazing, so hey, it'll be worth it.
Hopefully it'll be worth it. I'm sure it will be. Well, we're really excited to see what the team is doing, and it's been really fun. I don't think we ever said this on the podcast, but we did a bunch of gait analysis and injury screens and prevention work with you guys ahead of time. And we've been really working on building up strength and kind of building that program with you. And yeah, it's just been so much fun. So I can't wait to see these athletes as they do a great job.
I know, and I like to be able to say, well, if Kacy says you can, then okay. But until she says yes, no. That's my favorite go-to now is, did Kacy say you can do that? Because
oh, I've made it. This is amazing.
You're official big time, Kacy.
I don't know. You just might be my fall guy too, because that way they can't be mad at me though, It's great.
Hey, I'll take it. Whatever they can. I'll talk to them about it. No worries.
No, it's awesome. No, it's been really fun. I mean, I've gone over every single one of those running videos from every one of the athletes with each of our therapists. And it's really fun to watch and kind of pick it apart and see like, oh, this is so cool because we know they can get better at this. And yeah, it's been really fun. So
I think that's the hard part with the athletes is telling them like, it's okay if we find things wrong. That just means we can make it better. I'd rather find things wrong. If we don't find anything wrong, then we're in trouble because I don't know where we're going to go with you.
Oh, totally. I love it when we find things and we see weaknesses because we're like, yes, you're going to get so much better when this is stronger or
oh yeah,
worked on. Yeah, it's awesome. So Amy, we usually have these 3 questions that we like to ask everybody at the end of our podcast. So our first question is, what is the thing that you regularly do to take care of yourself?
Visit national parks. How about that?
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Okay. Second question, what is bringing you joy right now? I'm sure it's training camp in Florida, right?
Yes. The countdown to going from overseeing 2 things at the track club to 1. That is bringing me the most joy.
I'm so happy for you. You get to focus on the elite.
Bring tears to my eyes, joy like this. I'm just, so excited. I have 3 more days.
Is that all?
Yep, 3 more days.
Wow.
So when everyone feels this big
air.
breeze, when you feel a big breeze in 3 days, it's Amy letting this out, this sigh of relief.
I mean, the athletes are going to love me or hate me. I'm not sure yet. So we will leave that up for debate later.
We can have a big dance party or something fun,
They did vote me the mean coach, though. I'm just saying. So
You're the mean coach?
I guess I am. I'm the mean coach.
Oh my God.
I mean, Kacy did hear me yell at him in the gym, so I don't know.
It wasn't that bad, was it, Kacy?
It wasn't that. No, it wasn't that bad.
I think I almost hit you with my book at one point.
I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah, it was pretty close.
I was like, oh, and that's why I had to walk out at that point. I'm like, all right, I almost smacked Kacy in the face. I'm done.
Yeah, but if you're the mean coach, then they don't really know what it's like to be coached by someone who's mean.
I know.
Oh, they're pretty lucky. I'm just reflecting. All right. So our last question is, what is the one thing that you love so much that you have to do, eat, or be part of?
Ooh, volunteer with some type of animal rescue.
Oh, do you have pets?
I do. I have 3. We had 4 prior to COVID, and then we had 2, and now we have 3. A half foster fail is number 3.
Half foster fail.
He did get adopted, came back, and then I said, not letting him go again. Okay.
We'll keep him.
Yeah, so half.
Yeah, so half. You almost.
I did. He went away. Came back.
Sorry, I have my 2 Weimaraners that I had to sequester downstairs for this podcast because in our meeting today, they were jumping in my lap and licking my face.
They were. It was really cute.
Hilarious. Yeah, no, that's one of my
Oh, that's great. No,
I feel like I need to explain myself too, because I'm actually scratching my dog's butt right now. So he stopped whining and is not going to interrupt the podcast. So that's why I'm looking a little weird here on the camera.
that's pretty. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. See? Oh, that's cool. Which animal rescue do you work or do you volunteer at in Atlanta?
So mostly Best Friends. It used to be Atlanta Pet and Rescue, and then Best Friends came in and bought them. So now it's Best Friends. And I've also worked with Bosley's Place. They take neonatal puppies. So mostly, but for me, mostly I do like driving or other things. I mean, whatever needs to be done. I like to pick the things that nobody really wants to sign up for, like washing dog dishes or, whatever, just because I know, because Atlanta Track Club, it's hard sometimes to get volunteers to do the hard jobs. So I like to sign up for the hard jobs because knowing that, even though I don't get to play with the puppies, I'm still helping with the overall whatever.
Oh, that's great.
Love that.
All right.
I got my dog Ollie from Best Friends, actually. They're a really great organization. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a friend of mine got theirs from Best Friends too. So I have heard really good things about them. We should put their link in the show notes too.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
We'll do it.
All right. Well, Amy, we are so glad you came on today. Thank you so much for talking with us for so long and working through our technical difficulties at the beginning.
We all have them.
That's right.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. This has been really fun.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that it resonated with you and that you learned something. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps increase our visibility within the platform so that more awesome people like you can find us.
If you'd like to support us further, pretty pleased, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/morethanmiles. That's www.patreon.com/morethanmiles. Where for a few dollars, you can help the show grow and keep going, as well as receive exclusive perks like monthly Q&As with us. Until next time, remember to run the mile you're in, and that training is so much more than miles.